think at some point in my childhood I would have learned the phrase, look 5 to stay alive, as a way of helping know how to safely cross a street. I was trying to think what those 5 ways were, and I couldn't remember. I know left and right, some of those might be doubled up. I guess I made it this far in life, so I guess it's all right. I tried to look up what they were online, and all this other crazy stuff came up. But in any case, I was thinking of this because of our season of Advent, that we are crossing over into today, this new season, this new liturgical year. And rather than look 5 to stay alive, there's really 3 looks that we're asked to have, not just to stay alive, but to step more deeply into the life that we have, into our Christian life. And these 3 looks are to look back, and to look around, and to look forward. So first we look back. Of course, we know this season of Advent is the time to prepare for celebrating that coming of Christ into our world and his nativity at Christmas, this event that happened in the past. It's really a fulfillment of the prophets. One thing that's so amazing about our faith is that it's a religion of fulfillment. That Jesus is not just some mythical figure or some legend that we concocted. He really existed in time, and his coming was prophesied, ironically, by the prophets. Hundreds of years before, they said who this Messiah was going to be, when he was going to come, where he was going to come, his death and resurrection. Jesus is a fulfillment of prophecies that were hundreds of years old, and one of these we hear in our first reading today, the prophet Jeremiah. The interesting thing about this passage from Jeremiah, it's right before Jerusalem was going to be invaded and destroyed, the temple destroyed, the people taken away into exile. But yet God says to the prophet, I will maintain my promises, that my people will dwell safe and secure. Of course, they had to have been thinking even before Jesus came, like, it doesn't sound very safe and secure. I think we see then the promises of God remain even in difficult times. So there'll be a shoot that will sprout from David, a just shoot, righteous. And they will call him the Lord our justice, the Lord our righteousness, the God who will bring us back into a relationship. And that we can have this relationship with God, this peace with God, even when things around us are falling apart. So this look back to the time of Jesus' coming, I think we can also, in a sense, look back in our own lives to see where God has worked in our own lives and provided for us even in the midst of our difficulties. So not only do we are invited to take this special time to look back, but also then to look around. Because this Jesus is not just a historical figure, but he's alive. He has risen and ascended to the right hand of the Father. And he looks to live in us each day, that each and every day, including today, as he says in Revelations 3:20, behold, I stand at the door and knock. It's this present invitation that we have for the Lord to come more deeply into our lives, to truly be the Lord of our life. And in that we see in our second reading, St. Paul to the Thessalonians, how we're supposed to live this looking around. He says to continue to abide in love for one another and for all, to continue to grow in holiness. So we look around by seeing how we can step into faith, hope, and charity more and more each day. And invite the Lord to help us to do that by his grace. Of course, not only do we have this looking back and this looking around, but Advent also invites us to look forward to that coming of Christ again. Even though we have this religion of fulfillment, it's also one of waiting. There's an already and a not yet. When Christ will come again in his fullness, and lead us finally into the promised land of our heavenly home, where he will be all in all and will know the fullness of life forever. For he lives and reigns forever and ever. Jesus says there might be all sorts of crazy things that happen in our life that marks the end times, which frankly we're already in. We've been in it since Jesus came the first time. He says, stand firm and continue to trust in the goodness of God. We're awaiting the one who is the way and the truth and the life. The fact that Jesus is going to come again shows us that history doesn't just sort of roam around aimlessly. There's a trajectory. There's a definitive end, and that's our definitive end. So our life, wrapped up in Christ and his coming again for the fullness, our life has a direction, which then gives it meaning and purpose as well. And so in the season of Advent, we're called to look back, to look around, to look forward. I think every time we come to the Mass, we do the same things. We look back to what Jesus has done for us. We know that he is present here today in word and sacrament in our community. And all that's to continue to strengthen us in prayer and love and fortitude as we look to see him again face to face. In the meantime, to not get caught up as Jesus encourages us, either in the pleasures of life or the troubles in life, but to stand firm and trust in his goodness. As we encounter Christ here in the Mass today, maybe let's ask for that grace, that we may have greater vision to look back, to look around, and to look forward.